Welcome back to the YouTube channel. My name's Chris. I'm a videographer, photographer, and YouTuber. I make all sorts of videos from product reviews to demos to how-tos to just me sat here talking to you guys about my experiences. In today's video, I'm going to tell you why I'm thinking of ditching Sony for Fuji. Let me just start off by giving you a brief history of my camera ownership. Yeah, ownership. My cameras over the years. Chris Watkins Media's Cameras 101 from 2010 to present day. So I started off with the Canon 350D, which my dad very kindly lent me. I think he lent it to me. He might have given it to me. He'd had it for quite a while and I was just kind of getting into photography. And I used it for a year or so and I was like, I want something a bit better. I want something that shoots video. So I bought the Canon 550D with the kit lens and I loved it. From the day I picked it up, I loved it. I used it a lot. I used it for video a lot and I picked myself up a 50mm 1.8 prime lens, and that was the lens that sat on that camera for a very long time until I broke it. Not the lens, the camera. So the camera that came after the 550D was the Canon 60D, and again, loved it. It was very similar to the 550D, but it had the flippy outy screen. I like that quite a lot. And then I thought I want to go full frame, because that's what everyone does. They go full frame. Once they've mastered crop sensor, they go full frame. So I bought a Canon 5D Mark II, and then I broke that as well. So next on from that was the Canon 6D, and I loved that. I had the 24-105 L lens that came with it. I had a couple of other lenses. Most of the time it was the 24-105 that lived on it, and I shot a lot of video on that camera. But the main problem I had with that camera and lens combination was I used to use it on the DJI Ronin M, and holding that camera like that for a long period of time really damaged my back, and I still have back pain from it today. Even when I'm shooting with something really light, if I shoot with that camera system for a long period of time, my back starts to go, and I blame it all on that Canon 6D. And then the A7S came out and I was like, oh my god, I need to buy that camera. So I sold my Canon 6D and I bought the very first decent mirrorless camera that came out for video, and it was amazing in low light, and I shoot events most of the time in very dark spaces, so it seemed ideal for what I wanted to use it for. The only problem was I didn't buy any lenses and I couldn't afford to buy any lenses, so I was using my old Canon lenses with a Comlight adapter on the A7S, which didn't give me autofocus. It used to disconnect all the time. The aperture was a nightmare. It never worked properly. And I was getting very stressed out and thinking I should not have moved from Canon. So what did I do? I went and bought a Sony a6000. What any sane person would do. They'd buy another Sony camera. The Sony a6000 came with a kit lens and the autofocus was amazing. And I was like, yeah, this is good. This is what I wanted in the first place. So I eventually sold the A7S and I bought a Sony a6300. Which I still own. It's here. I then went on to buy quite a few lenses for the Sony E-mount system. I've got this Sigma 30mm 1.4, I've got a Sony 50mm 1.8, and I'm shooting on a Sigma 16mm 1.4, and that camera that is filming me now is another Sony a6300, so you can tell how much I like the Sony system. So let's just talk about the benefits of the Sony camera system, the things I really like about the Sony cameras. Firstly, the autofocus is absolutely insane. It's so quick, it's so accurate. I can shoot all day with this using autofocus and it doesn't bother me at all. A lot of filmmakers don't enjoy autofocus, they don't like it, it doesn't focus on what they want it to focus on. For me, these cameras do the job perfectly, and if something's going to help me, especially in a run and gun situation, I'm going to use it. Secondly, they shoot 4K. Not that I shoot a massive amount of 4K, the most I ever shoot 4K is when I'm filming YouTube videos. So all of my YouTube videos are always in 4K, but most of the time we're shooting in 1080p, and again, most of the time we're shooting in 100 frames per second, because you can shoot 100 frames a second or 120 frames a second in 1080p and you can retain that audio. So that's mainly what we shoot in. The next thing I really love about the Sony systems is they are so damn cheap. This camera body was about £450. You can still pick them up between £400 and £500, and it hasn't lost any of its value, so I love that. So that's the Sony cameras talked about, and obviously we have the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K. And I love the image that comes out of this. I love that you can shoot in RAW. I love the adaptability that you can add microphones and lights and everything you want, a big screen to this, and you're not going to have any problems at all. The only thing I don't like about it is going back to the Canon 6D days of my life. It's really heavy, especially when you put it on a gimbal, so I don't want to be running around with it all day. And you might just think, well, that's lazy. It's not laziness. It's about being able to get into those really tight positions really quickly. If you're shooting a festival, you don't want to be lugging something around that's really heavy. You want to be able to run to that next shooting position and get that shot and then move on. And something like the Sony a6300 allows you to do that. So, we're up to date. That is what my cameras looked like as of a week ago. And then I learned about this. The Fuji XT3. So my friend James, hi James, has got the Fujifilm X100F, and I've always been a bit jealous. Don't tell him, hopefully he doesn't watch this video, but I've always been a little bit jealous of that camera. He takes it to family events and he gets some really nice snapshots throughout his life, and I wanted something similar. Obviously I could use my phone, but to be honest, the only pictures I ever take on my phone are things around the house that need fixing or screenshots. I don't use my phone for photography much. That's going to change in an upcoming video I'm going to make. So I was talking to him about his X100F, and I really liked the images that were coming out of it, and I nearly bought an X100F, and then I saw a really good deal on an XT3, and I thought, well, that's bound to be better, isn't it? And I like to one-up James, so I bought this instead. But I bought this primarily for fun. I bought this for day trips and for birthday parties and things like that. And then it arrived, and I noticed something about it. So firstly, I noticed it had a headphone jack and a mic input, and I was like, well, these are for photography. Look, they've got all the manual settings on the top for photography. They've got ISO, shutter speed, exposure compensation. They're a photographer's camera. They're not for video, are they? And then I opened up the SD card slot and noticed it had dual SD cards. I was thinking, what's going on here? And then I started doing some research into it, and usually I would research the hell out of a camera before I even thought about buying it, but with the Fujifilm I just didn't for some reason. I just thought that looks nice and it's going to perform very well as a point and shoot camera that I can take everywhere with me. So after I did some research, I found out it could shoot 60 frames in 4K. I was like, whoa. The only other camera I've got that can do that is the Blackmagic. And the file sizes that come out of here are absolutely enormous. Also, if you do want to shoot 4K 60 on the Blackmagic, you then have to shoot it on an SSD. This is just regular SD cards. Interesting. Then found out that it could shoot 120 frames a second in 1080. The same as the Sony's, which has always really impressed me. And I thought, okay, this looks like it could be a really good little video camera. I also bought the 35mm f2 prime lens. It's the cheapest autofocus prime lens that you can buy from Fuji, and I have to say the autofocus in video mode is unbelievable. It's on par, if not better, than on the Sony's. And then finally I started looking at the XT4, and I was like, oh my god, it shoots 240 frames a second in 1080. And the only other camera that does that, well, no other camera does that in this form factor, which is what I was going to say. The next camera up that you would need to buy to get something of high quality in 240 frames is something like the FS5. And we used to have an FS5 primarily for 240 frames a second. And I was thinking, well, you can get that image quality in something this size now. Mind blown. Am I going to be switching everything to Fuji? No. I'm going to be keeping the Sonys for YouTube primarily, and they will come on some jobs with us. I'm probably going to be getting rid of the Blackmagic. Sorry, mate. I know we've had a nice time together, but it just doesn't get used enough. And I'm going to be swapping it for the Fujifilm XT3 with a nice prime lens on it, I think. I'm going to do some tests with the Fujifilm XT3, so if you want to see them, then jump over to my Instagram and follow me on there, and I might do another video following this one if you guys enjoy this video with some sample shots from it. But I'm really excited about this new camera system, probably the most excited I've ever been about trying out a new camera, and it just happens that I already own it. And for a completely different reason to why I bought it, but I am going to be testing it out, and I'm pretty sure the results are going to blow my mind. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe so you never miss another episode, and I will see you again very soon.